We'll call the June 1st Williams County Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. Beth, will you call roll?
Barry?
Here.
Corey?
Here.
Bo is absent. David?
Here.
We have a quorum. We will continue. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, let's start with the consent agenda.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have one correction for the Fair Board that has not happened yet, just so everybody's aware. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion?
Do we want, Beth was talking about we can make it the Fair Board contingent on application, or?
Couldn't we make that approval contingent on the application being received? In case she gets it?
They have to file an application though, so.
Well, yeah, but if Christie gets it before the next meeting, then she can get them their money faster. It's up to you guys.
Christie? Just wondering if you have an opinion on it.
Yeah, can you approve the payment and then we could follow up with a signature at the next one? I mean, would that be okay? Just so they get their money before the fair starts?
Yeah, Commissioner Montgomery, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. So the amended motion is to approve the dollar amount and then ask for the signature at the next meeting. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Barry?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, the Muddy Valley subdivision plat is getting tabled until next meeting. Mr. Rintamaki is absent today. So we'll jump on to Williston Township Fair Subdivision Special Assessment Financing.
I'll go first on that one, and then I believe Christie's gonna talk about something, and then Dan, I think, has some questions, and then I'll probably come back up here too, so yeah, so it's a multi-thing.
Okay.
So at the last board meeting, Dan Carlisle from the Williston Township came and asked the board for, I believe it's $250,000 for a road project. They're gonna be doing it Fair Subdivision. And so Chrissy brought up the idea about possibly sending this back to the finance board to have a discussion about possible funding of other townships and things like that, and coming up with something that would work for everybody, really. And so I'm gonna have Christy come up and talk about that, and then I'll come back up and talk about the Williston Township one, so.
Good morning.
Good morning.
At the Finance Committee, we did discuss this new program and the possibility of building such a program. And the Finance Committee did make a recommendation that we move ahead with building that program, but we don't have all the details fully worked out as of yet, but we plan to revisit it at budget review. But we would like to move ahead or recommend that this board visit the Williston JPA based on this program, because they're the initiation of the program, so. So Karen has drafted a JPA. Did you want any details of the program, or should we
Yeah.
wait until we're ready?
Commissioner Montgomery, do you have any thoughts? I mean,
Do you want to talk about anything that we mentioned in the, as far as the program?
Or would you like to wait until we've drafted the documents?
I'm
for the
sorry?
Would you like to wait till we've drafted the documents for the program?
That's fine, Christie. I guess if any other the commissioners have questions, I guess.
Well, I'd like to kind of hear what the idea is.
Well, I think the idea was that we would visit these types of requests at a maximum of $250,000 apiece. And we were just playing around with numbers. But it would all depend on what the oil and gas money came in each year. We'd have to look and make sure there was an excess of oil and gas money over what our budgets required. Then we would move that money to a different fund and have that sort of like a revolving fund for these townships. So as they pay them off, we put the money back in the fund. And then we've kind of played around with dates. There would have to be like a cutoff date when an application could come in. Because we have to kind of budget and plan for these too.
So,
We also talked about a cap, Corey, of the fund money per year of a number I threw out was, say, $1 million. So that gave 4 townships or 4 entities an opportunity for that $250,000 instead of bonding it. So that, but like Christie said, we need to make sure that our needs are taken care of for that year first.
So you fill the 13, like for example, this year, the $13 million gross production tax bucket gets filled first, and then anything above and beyond that starts to fill if we want to steal the state's bucket idea. But it's a loan, it's not a grant,
Yes, it's a loan.
yes, and it's a loan to the township, so it's not just free money.
so is there gonna be a cap on it? I mean, we shouldn't need to put money in there every year from now till the end of time. I mean, if you put in $1 million this year and $1 million next, it's, because it's gonna get paid back, correct?
Right.
I think the intent that we had, or I know I did, was that it's $1 million per year. Once it's gone, it's gone. And if it doesn't get used in a particular year, say there's, $500,000 less the next year, then we would, as long as our needs are met first, then we would only put in 500,000.
So will there be a limit to just one application per township then? Or
No,
or-
it's just, I guess my thoughts, and I think, Steve, you agreed that we're not gonna limit it to just one.
Well, no, no, what
There's
I'm-
4 opportunities there, and that's it. First come, first served, I guess, Barry, is.
So, I mean, but what I was getting at is if there's, issues here, there, wherever throughout the county, but all 4 of these $250,000 loans wouldn't go to just the one township, right? It would mean it would be.
No, it'd
it
have
would
to be different, it'd have to be different projects, and that project, I think the other thing we talked about was that we didn't, and that's probably open for further discussion, but say one township had a $500,000 project, they couldn't use 2 grants, say, for that case. Up to 250,000, Barry, I think our thought process was for one project.
This is just for those small projects. And then the idea too would be is we wouldn't even go to the $1 million pot of money if we got enough projects. Say we got 10 requests in and it was about $2 million in requests, we would just bond the whole thing as one bond instead of breaking it down potentially into multiple small bonds. Or we,
I did check with the Bank of North Dakota, and there is no program that we could bond
Well, geez,
multiple
that was a-
projects.
that would have been a nice idea. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So one quick, I mean, I think it sounds like a great idea, but say this year, the Wilson Township's the only one that goes in. So next year, we'd only have to put 250,000 in to make it whole, and then as things get paid back, you just make it whole each year. Okay, it sounds like a great idea. I'm glad if you guys came up with a good plan. I like it.
Plus, I think Steve brought up the idea too that it's the township's responsibility to set up the special improvement district, I guess, rather than the county doing it.
Any more questions for me? Can I let Karen review the JPA then with you?
Sure.
Okay, now I'm here to talk specifically about the Williston Township. At the finance board meeting, if they had a discussion about this township road program, we decided to sort of kind of kickstart it a little bit with the Williston Township. And so the idea was to make like Steve had mentioned, to make this the loan request, not the loan, but the request for $250,000 as a loan. And then the county would be sort of the caretaker of the special, would be the collector of the special assessment of funds that they get in from the landowners. but then the county would just keep that money instead of dispersing it to the township and then put it against the loan, because the loan would be really for a 15-year period, really, because that's how long the special assessments would be going. And so the county would just continue to keep it, retain it, and credit it against the loan until the loan was completely paid off. In addition to the loan, the idea is also to, and also as part of the township program, is that we would be charging the townships $1,000 plus 3% of the engineer's estimated cost of the project, really as fiscal administration fees, and, you know, in doing the special assessments and collecting them and retaining them and things like that. And we also,
3%, I'm sorry,
what?
the 3%.
Of the engineer's estimated cost of the project. Yeah. In addition, there is, I did factor into the joint powers agreement, and I didn't give you a copy of the joint powers agreement because I was really still hammering out with the finance department, and I really wanted to hammer it out with Williston Township, and it's really going to be a lot like what you guys have seen before, though, really. And the other aspect of the joint powers agreement is that if the Williston Township wanted to do it, they could pay off the loan early themselves, and then they would just start getting the distribution of the special assessments that were collected. It also requires the township to certify the special assessments to the audit, well, to the finance department now, as they're required to under state law. I believe that was it. Oh, also, I also factored into the current one with the Williston Township is the ability to use our special assessment commission. I can't take that out. Williston Township doesn't want it, but I thought I would factor that in because we did that for Missouri Ridge. So I think that was about it, really. I guess I think Dan had some questions or comments or.
What happens if the township wants to pay for the administrative fees on their own? Because Dan had mentioned that they wanted to cover the administrative fees, so it doesn't go in on the special assessments.
Well, I could factor that into the joint powers agreement, you know, but just generally under state law, it's like special assessments, the total cost of special assessments that are spread against the landowners includes not only construction costs, but also publication fees, fiscal administration fees, attorney's fees, and things like that. But we can factor that in so that they just pay that up front too. That would be fine.
Okay.
So, and then the fiscal administration fees in this instance, because the estimated cost of engineers is $250,000, the fiscal administration fees was $8,500. So, I guess if Dan wants to come up and make some comments or have some questions about it, yeah.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate the work that the Finance Committee put into this. Greatly appreciate it. Just a couple questions. And I don't know if you have a copy of this in front of you, of their draft?
No.
Okay, so I will try to explain it as best I can, but we're using the number $250,000 and 3.4%. When you add the $1,000 and the $7,500, it's actually 3.4% of the project, which is fairly consistent with special assessment districts that we've done in the past. Well, so the first question I have, let's say that the bids come in and we're 2.25%. Would the 3% then come down? You've still got the $1,000 administrative fee up front, but then the 3% comes down.
Yep.
Okay, so it'd be a floating number until we're further in. And the, you know, if you take the $8,500 divided by 9, it's $944 a lot. So rather than put that burden also on the homeowner, it is our hope that the township would pay the administration fee, which we have done in the past, and make it a little more easier to swallow. And then I have, in 1B, Karen, you have purpose of agreement, and under B, you have allow the Williams County Special Assessment Commission appointed by the Williams County Board of Commissioners to perform the statutory authority and duties of the township with regards to special assessments. So we have started the process. We have the 60% trip already taken. We have 8 out of 9 our landowners in agreement. So at what point do we take our procedure, do we stop our procedure and allow the Special Assessment Committee to pick up the procedure at the point when it's time to assess the cost to each lot? Or at what point does our authority transfers over to your authority? Because I think, as you gentlemen know, there's 2 avenues to go now. There's the county avenue for special assessments, which follows the cities, and then the township Avenue, which is just slightly different in 5818. So that's one of the questions that I have, is that where do we, or do you want us to stay on our path and bring it to you, or where do you want the county to step in and take over the special assessment hearings and those other procedures?
You know, that's really something that you, I mean, whatever you, I mean, you know, we would take over at the time the statute says that after the township would certify go through oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, after the township would do their process, go through the assessments and certify them, the estimate cost, the total cost of the project, then that's when the Special Assessment Commission would kick in. You know, but you and I could have a discussion about whether you want to use the County Special Assessment Commission. I just put that in there because we did it for Missouri Ridge, and I just wanted to offer it. So you and I can talk about the details, really.
And thank you. Understanding some of the problems in the past, I definitely know where you are coming from, Karen, and what you're trying to achieve. And what we're trying to achieve is, we don't care how we get there, just so we get there. That's the goal.
Well, one of the benefits of using the County Special Assessment Commission is that if you didn't use the counties, the township would have to create its own Special Assessment Commission. And I think that that's probably an extra step that, if you want to go through it, that's fine, but yeah.
Well, yeah, traditionally, we have used the board and then 2 representatives from the district and use that as a special assessment committee. So whichever way, we can certainly determine that as we get further along. Okay, and then the other question, I'm just paging through my notes we sent this to our attorney, and he wrote some questions down too. There's a paragraph about the cost of the Special Assessment Commission. Except that the township shall reimburse. Is this one on all the time? I want to make sure. Okay, thank you. Because I can't talk without moving my hands around. Except that the township shall reimburse county for any cost for such administration as invoiced by county, and township shall pay any such invoice within 30 days. And this it says the township shall be responsible for the cost of the Special Assessment Commission. Okay, so if we're paying 3.4% of the project for administration fees, and then we have to pay for the cost of the administration of the Special Assessment Commission on top of that, that seems like there's some redundancy there.
Well, to tell you the truth, when we allowed the Missouri Ridge Township to use our Special Assessment Commission, the only thing that we charge them is for publication of the special assessment. That's really what we would charge you for. And that's sort of a direct
That's
cost that
certainly
we
fair
shouldn't
enough.
have to pay for. So
Yeah.
I can specify that in there, you know, but I want to make sure that the county has the option of doing that. And then the administration key, and plus, the county, even though we're not going to charge the township for that, the county has to pay those Special Assessment Commission members $100 per meeting. And so we're willing to, you know, with Missouri Ridge, we ate that really. So we're willing to do that, but I wanted to.
Karen, I think it's imperative that we don't say we ate that. Because you are charging an administrative fee. And so wouldn't that administrative fee cover that?
The-
Well, I guess, Steve, my real question was, they're already paying taxes. So if we're being charged for vacuuming the floor after the meeting, well, they're already paying for that. But publications, absolutely. Because publications are expensive. I don't have a problem with that at all. I just wanted to clarify what,
And I understand the question. It just seems like an add-on. Okay, so if we're going to charge an administrative fee, let's include the cost of the publication in the administrative fee unless it's not going to be there. I mean, that's my perspective on this, and I think it's cleaner, it's neater.
Okay.
and there is a difference between, and just a side note, Deb Kemp, I believe, has enough signatures now for West Acres to look at a district. But if we're going after that one also, we will probably try to schedule that for next year. There's only so much we can do in 1 year. But it's different to set up special assessments for 75 to 100 lots versus 9. It's just not as much work, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that because this is all new, that we Christie and Karen keep track of the fees. And if the fees that we're charging aren't enough, then we need to change the amount of the fees that we charge, because I don't personally I'm not saying I disagree with you, but what I'm saying is I don't think it's fair for the taxpayers of Williams County to have to pay anything over and above what, for a particular subdivision.
I couldn't agree more, but I'd just like us to be organized, and if we're going to charge an administrative fee, let's have the administrative fees included in there and then not add them on after the fact. Exactly, yeah, I agree.
Just so you know, the two different costs are in there because when the finance committee talked about this, I mean, the idea of the special assessment commission wasn't even an issue or anything like that. I only proposed it in this agreement, but I just offered to the township really. And my intention in drafting that joint powers agreement, the reason you don't have a copy of it is my intention was to have a discussion with Dan to get things final, see what they, and then bring it to you guys really. So, I mean, you know, if we could have hashed this out, you know, outside of this meeting, we probably could have done that, you know.
Sure.
And I could have come to the board saying, this is what they're proposing, this is what I think, what do you think really?
That's fair, and we're in a hurry. I mean, everybody's trying to get this in this construction season, so that's
And we have
understandable.
a significant holiday that's screwed up the week, so. But I think you're exactly right, David, that's why it's a special assessment district. It's one small area, and it has to be fair to them and fair to all the taxpayers at large, so.
Okay, and
But
just.
great, we
I'm
can
sorry.
continue to work on it
Yep.
at your leisure.
Yeah, and just so you know
Great.
too, I mean, if we're going to, well, you know, I guess maybe what we'll just, I mean, after we get through the Wilson Township one, then as part of this township road program, we'll discuss more of the details about special assessment commission, things like that during that process, really, so.
Yeah, and this, I have way more time this week than I had last after I got this, so. Okay, I think that's everything else we could talk about in a forthcoming meeting. Okay, so thank you very much.
Perfect.
Appreciate your help, appreciate help letting us take the initiative like this with you guys, so thanks again.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, so contingent on Dan and I, with Wilson Township working out a deal, I guess I would really like a motion from this board approving the loan of $250,000 based on the terms that we talked about, contingent on us working out a joint powers agreement and you guys approving the joint powers agreement.
I would make that a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion for discussion, if I may,
Okay, let's open up discussion.
that there's a max of capped at 250,000. And Christie, in looking at the last report you sent out, I guess I would recommend that the $250,000 funds come out of the crew housing fund.
That's what I was just gonna ask you.
Okay, is that good?
Yeah, well, the 250 was already, stated, so that was in there. And if you want to put in the crew housing, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Any additional discussion?
And do you want to authorize the chairman to sign the joint powers agreement? When it's done.
That's going to come back to us, isn't it, Karen, first, after you and Dan have a discussion?
Sure, if you'd like it to, yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have it come back.
That way I can tell you the exact details that we worked out, so.
Perfect. Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Corey?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, Dan. Okay, we'll jump into planning and zoning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sam Miller with County Planning. First on the agenda, we have LU-0039-21. This is a request for a conditional use permit for an additional single-family dwelling on a 160-acre parcel that is currently and will remain zoned agricultural. The applicant is requesting an additional single-family dwelling. The existing dwelling is occupied by the owner of the farm, which is the applicant's father. The property abuts two section lines, and the applicant is aware that they must meet those building setbacks when placing the home. The new dwelling will be connected to rural water. There was a public comment letter that was in favor of the request, and then staff has placed two conditions on the project. One is to adhere to Williams County zoning and subdivision regulations, and then the second is if construction related to the CUP does not start within 18 months of approval and no extension has been granted, the board can revoke the CUP. Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at the May meeting and recommended approval for the request with the conditions that were listed above.
Okay, is the applicant present? Okay. Do you have any comments for the board? Okay. What are the wishes of this board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to follow recommendations in planning and zoning and approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Steve,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Motion passes. Yeah.
Next on the agenda is LU-0044-21. This is a request by Mr. Rintamaki for a zone change to rural residential for 4 proposed lots. This lot creation is actually working through the minor subdivision process right now to create those 4 lots. They'll range in size from about 12 acres to 13 acres. The newly created lots will take access from County Road 17 to the north there. The request went before the Williams County Water Resource Board, and the Water Board is requesting a de minimis effect study be submitted and approved. At the May Planning and Zoning Commission, the commission requested staff gather more input from County Highway Department. As you know, these requests are all sent to Highway Department. Initially, there wasn't any comment back from the highway just in regard to the approaches. So if you look at the lot design, there'll be 4 approaches in a row, and that was a concern to the Planning and Zoning Commission, so we went back to the Highway Department to gather more input. Highway had said that there already are existing approaches there, so really it's not a concern. There's culverts in place. Like I said, the approaches are already there. So since the approaches are existing, they won't need those county approach permits. Planning and Zoning had heard this item, and the commission voted 5-2 to recommend approval for the request with the 3 conditions listed. I did include that approach permits be granted by the county highway if necessary. In this case, it's not necessary, but it doesn't hurt to include that comment. The township did comment. They actually commented undecided. They just would rather abstain from commenting on this. But with that, yeah, the 3 comments are listed in your packet.
Okay, is the applicant present? Okay. What are the wishes of the board?
Sam, you did say that those 4 approaches are already there.
Correct. I personally haven't seen them, but the county engineer did go out there and he verified they exist.
That's just a lot of approaches right out of a blind corner.
Yeah, and that was also the concern from Planning and Zoning Commission.
Barry, were you at that?
Yes, it was. I guess I didn't realize the approaches there. I thought there was only the one where that house is in the northwest corner, and then in sort of a makeshift was gonna be a road at one time right in the middle, but it's just an awful busy little corner there, but you can come straight off each end of the 90s, and then 5 approaches in between. What, someday in the future, is a school bus gonna stop and pick up kids on the pavement? Or, I mean, it seems to me like kind of a shaky deal, but.
Mr. Chairman, being as Mr. Rentamaki is representing this and he's out of town, would it be best to maybe delay this till our next meeting for their defense, if there's any comments they have?
That would probably be best. I guess if there's questions, I guess they could always have an answer maybe.
Okay.
I can also ask Wayne if he'd be available for the next meeting to comment.
Sure. Okay.
Do we push that a whole month then, or can we do this at our next meeting?
I believe you can do it at the next meeting.
And aren't we meeting the 29th of June also?
Yep.
So we got 2 more meetings to do.
Well, we should be able to do something by next meeting, but as long as Ed's around, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we delay this until the June 15th, 2021 commission meeting so that the applicants can be here to respond to questions.
June
June.
what?
June 15th?
Yeah, just as FYI, when I had talked to Ed about the Muddy Valley thing, he said that he would be available June 15th, so he'll be
Okay,
here.
so he'd be here regardless, okay. So we have a motion to table this until the June 15th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote?
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes, motion passes.
Okay, the next item is LU-0047-21. Mr. Hubner is requesting a zone change to urban residential for 5 proposed lots. Staff had received a request for withdrawal of the item by the applicant on May 26th. That's included in your packet. So he is requesting that this be taken off the agenda.
Okay. Nothing to address then. We don't have to address that at all formally then. Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is LU-0049-21. Mr. Ekblad, on behalf of Selling Construction, is requesting a conditional use permit for an existing gravel pit on the 160-acre parcel. This property is currently zoned agricultural. The applicant's requesting the CUP to operate a gravel pit. The existing gravel pit, however, has not been in operation since 2012. The anticipated traffic volume is 10 truckloads per day. The approach has been approved by NDDOT, and that letter is in your packet. This request was discussed at the April 13th regularly scheduled Water Resource District Board meeting. The Water Board determined that the request will not need a de minimis effect or stormwater management plan. In speaking further with the environmental engineer, he did recommend that that the applicant notify all downstream property owners. So I did include that as a comment. However, when we notify adjacent property owners of a project like this, the letters get sent out a mile around the property. When we polled the adjacent property owners, there's actually only 2 or 3 property owners downstream, and they would have been notified by this project. So I left it as a comment on here to include, but also I just wanted to let you know they've been notified of this project already. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, they unanimously recommended approval for the request with the 2 conditions. The first being that if construction does not begin within 18 months, that the CUP can be revoked. And then also the second comment is to notify all downstream property owners of the project. So the reason for that, there's 2 reasons. The first being that it is going to be a gravel pit that'll be in operation, and this does flow down into the Little Muddy. And then also they did install kind of like a bridge, a land bridge. You can see it on the map a bit. in speaking with our environmental engineer, they're not sure if they did that correctly. I mean, it's functioning. There's still water that's passing through. And the water board did look at this and they said that they didn't need any studies to be approved by them. So just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay, is the applicant present? Okay, what are the wishes of the board? Yes.
Dorothy Moline Kuster was at the planning and zoning meeting. Most of you know Dorothy. She's very shy. She didn't want to speak up at the meeting. Ryan, if you could slide the screen down a little bit, the other direction, please. If you can get that area. You can see the Moline Farmstead, and I know all you guys are familiar with it. You've driven by there 1,000 times or more, right on the highway there. Dorothy's house, Dorothy and her husband have a house there, and her mother still lives there. And Dorothy's concern is that there's an unrecorded Kinder Morgan high-pressure natural gas line going through the northern part of the gravel pit. And staff looked for it and could not find it because it's unrecorded. And when the line was put in, it was moved off the pipeline corridor, and you can actually see the corridor up where that tan stripe is up there, because there's been other pipelines just put in there. It was actually moved to the southeast. And Dorothy's very concerned that when Sellen goes in there and excavates more gravel, they'll hit that line. So she had contacted me after the meeting and asked if she could sit down with Sam and visit about where the line is and make sure that the safeguards are in place so somebody doesn't hit it, especially a high-pressure line. It was put in by Highland Partners, which was part of Continental, and then Kinder Morgan bought those out and assumed that pipeline.
Has anybody brought it to their attention that, maybe
She-
it wouldn't hurt if
she
they
has-
were to?
She has tried in the past. There were some legal issues involved. She wasn't comfortable speaking about it in a public meeting. She asked to bring the issues to Sam. I reached out to Sam, but Dorothy was gone last week, graduation somewhere, and she was hoping to sit down with Sam this week. So I'm just asking if you could also delay this one till the next meeting so that Dorothy and Sam could sit down and make their concerns known. And it would affect, an explosion out there would affect her and her mother and Wade across the road, Wade Smith across the road, of course.
And it'd be pretty hard on the guys running the equipment, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jason Ekblad, I'm surprised that Jason's not here this morning as we're finishing up the 52nd Street project, which is done, which Sellen did. He and I talked about it at length a week ago Friday, and I told him what was going on. I let Dorothy know, and she was going to reach out to Sam this week.
He didn't seem opposed to waiting a couple weeks to get this figured out?
They're not ready to go in there yet.
Okay.
And it's going to be a one and done. They're going to go in, get what they can, and then they're going to be done. Thank you.
This is our one opportunity to make this a requirement that they get this located?
Yeah,
Is
that pipeline, for everyone's safety, should be located, and an easement should be. Exactly. Yeah, she said they came home, the trench was already dug through their property and not where it was supposed to be. Thank you. Oh, one other comment. On the last application, David Heller and some of the other neighbors were here. I don't know that they fully understand what just happened on that application. If you take a second and explain that to them.
Okay, the application was, Ray,
So on May 26th, staff received a letter. It was drafted to the board. It's included in your packet. But the request was for the application for that zone change, the Hubner zone change, to be withdrawn. So that just means that it is taken off the agenda completely, and if they were to ever reapply, they'd have to go through the process starting from the beginning.
Can I add something to that?
yeah, just come on up and just state your name for the record. Even though we all know who you are.
David Heller. The property that you guys were discussing, I'm glad that they did that, but I was on the township board for Stony Creek, and we've always had 10-acre increments on this property, and the one proposal they had prior to was 11-acre, 12-acre type things. And I hope you guys take that into consideration in the future of people doing residential work, because all the landowners that are out there on our road is for a 4.5 mile from the highway all the way to the railroad tracks. Everybody's got anywhere from 10 to 50 acres. So when you come in with a subdivision and break it up into 2, 3 acre, and there's enough subdivisions in the country, I believe, because there's a lot of them that don't, there's sites to build. But we've got some pretty serious investments in our property. It don't take long, and you got $1 million, $2 million investment. And to come in when we're sitting on 40 acres to put 2 acre, 1 acre, and I've got a property close to that, 211 acres close to that. And if you open the door for one guy to go 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre, then when I come to you and say, hey, I got 211 acres and I want to break it all up to 1 acre increments, are you going to do that for me? Because I had 4.4 acres on the other side of the road that I wanted to build a shop. And this was probably 15, 18 years ago. And I was denied that because it's only 4.4 acres. It's not a 10-acre increment. And I said, that's fine. I can appreciate that because everybody wants their space. But I didn't build a shop there. I went over on my 40 acres that my house is on, and built it. So that land really is kind of a boneyard for me, but I can't do nothing with it. But I'm okay with that because I have my neighbors with me, and they've got a 50-acre lot right next to it. And both of us were concerned of the same thing. We hope they don't, in future consideration, you stay at the 10-acre increments rather than the 2 or 1 or 3 or. And some of the stuff, the infrastructure for what we're doing out there is not made for what's happening right now because the roads were built in the 50s. They piled rocks on the road and then they covered it with dirt. None of the ditches are cut and they're all just flat. If there's an approach there, it was a rock pile that got dirt thrown on it. So when you do that, there's a lot of money that needs to be spent to do it properly before you ever do it. And another thing in our area is they've got a lift station for all the rural water. There's really not a lot of pressure for us, in that area. And if they were to go in with more housing and stuff, it's a bigger lift system, so more money. But I'm glad that he withdrawed it, but I just wanted to express my concerns, something down the road. I hope you guys take that into consideration. These 40-acre, 160-acre deal, 12-acre deals, that's a pretty good deal for a guy going out in the country, but, 1 acre and cars and trailer houses and dogs and motorcycles and you guys know about all that stuff. You've seen it on the road. I just drove up County Road 9 last night and in the ditch where they've been riding, the guy's got big wheels up there that say no trespassing and it's really a hazard because if a kid hits that, someone's in trouble, but where do they ride? I don't know, but there's a lot of things to consider other than just putting 3, 5 houses on a, acreage like they were looking to do. I appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on.
Do we
Or-
need, I would make a motion to table the
Sorry, I forgot where we were at.
0049-21 till
The gravel
the
pit.
15th.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote?
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
David.
Yes.
motion passes.
Next item on the agenda is LU-0053-21. AIC Energy Corps is requesting a conditional use permit for a facility to produce renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel from agricultural feedstock on a proposed 87-acre lot. This lot has been created when we got the application, it was 2 parcels, and now it's combined into one. They went through the re-subdivision process. So there's a lot of information included in your packet, and the applicant is here if you have specific questions for them. Staff did provide an analysis just based on our criteria to evaluate a conditional use permit. That is in your packet. There's also a list of 13 conditions, mainly related to the obtaining a traffic engineering analysis by NDDOT. That was of somewhat of a concern for the full-scale development of the project. They've been in communication with the North Dakota Department of Transportation, also with other state and federal agencies. Those need to be contacted in order for them to move forward with this project. The Planning and Zoning Commission did hear this item at the May meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. So if you have any questions, I kind of decided to break it down. The analysis is broken down into categories, so if you have specific questions on any of those categories, please let me know.
Okay, Brandon, do you have any comments? Good. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, what are the wishes of the board?
I'd make a motion to approve following planning and zoning's recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote?
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
This next item is still related to the previous item. This is just a request by Williams County Planning and Zoning staff to change the existing zoning from old industrial, that's a relic from our past ordinance, to heavy industrial. We went back and looked at the minutes from the original zone change, and it's in compliance with the area being updated to heavy industrial. It also matches the request of the applicant prior to this agenda item. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at the May meeting and unanimously recommended approval contingent upon adherence to our county zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations.
Just a question, Sam, this is for the whole area?
Sorry, no, just for that 87-acre parcel, so the one that AIC Energy is building that renewable fuel.
And there'd be no reason to change the rest until somebody else comes to the,
So eventually, we will be updating this. It's taking longer than we thought. Just there's a lot of complicated parcels within the city or within the county. But this one, since they would like to move forward right away, we just thought they could be in total compliance with Williams County if we just updated the zoning district now.
okay, thank you. Okay, what are the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the request from staff on the zone change.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote?
Steve,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
And then finally, the Planning and Zoning Commission created a review committee to recommend Planning and Zoning Commission applicants to open positions. Sorry, Helen will do this. Never mind, I'm finished now. Thank you.
You bet, thanks, Sam. Yeah. Thank you.
I noticed Helen wasn't running. She was going to let you go.
And Sam, I don't think Helen would be upset if you presented it.
Thank you, Sam. Anybody from County Highway here or on the phone?
I just needed.
You just leave it on the permanent, okay. Okay, well then we'll jump to Christie.
I'm back.
Good morning to you
Good
again.
morning again. Ide Bailey has a change order. Again, this is not their fault. This is a GASB. Number 84 came out, and they have to test our fiduciary funds and restate our fiduciary reports in our audit packets. So they are charging an additional $6,000 for that. It's a one-time fee. And once we have those funds identified, we should be on the right track and GASB compliant.
Would they have to like dig a big hole to find these funds? Or, I mean, that's a lot of money, isn't it?
There's a lot of testing that goes in with this, so yeah, no. We know what the funds are, we just have to identify them. There's gonna be 4 new classifications for fiduciary funds, and they're gonna have to type each one, they run them each through a test, and they have to reformat our statements, so. And this one won't be shared by discrete components because they don't have fiduciary funds, so. This is just the county. Perfect.
Okay, do you want a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the change order.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Steve,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Second item I have today is the American Rescue Plan Act. You know, the county has been allocated some money through that fund. And we have to apply for that money if we care to take that money into our funds. So I need to know if this commission would like to move forward on accepting those funds or how you're feeling. The Finance Committee did hear this request. They did recommend that we move forward with the funds. I emailed you a listing of what the funds can be used for. We have some, they say it's a broad scope, but it's kind of limited actually. But we do have lost revenue that we may be able to apply for. So if you want to move forward, I need to have this report or these documents signed. There's 2 places to sign. And I recommend that we keep the money in a restricted fund until we determine what they can be used for. And if we accept the funds, we immediately, every quarter, have to start filing some reports to the U.S. Treasury.
Just a quick question. I read through the list, and I think it makes perfect sense to get it. Now, at the end of the time frame, if we don't use it, we can just return that?
That is what I'm told, that is what I'm reading, that it can be returned. Well, it must be returned, actually.
Sure, I just didn't know if it was a big penalty to,
I asked that question of the NACO fact page, the frequently asked questions. I've not received any feedback that it would be a negative impact. No penalties.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion if we want to go forward with the acceptance of the award terms.
And the first acceptance will only generate half of that money for us. So we'd have to do another request later down the road.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize that acceptance.
Okay. Do we need an authorization included for the chairman to sign on that motion?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he has to provide everything, his social security number, date of birth.
I already did that. I had to do a face scan and everything.
My-
So,
So if we don't pay it back, they're coming after him, right?
yeah.
That's okay. I can afford $5.
I will
month payments.
definitely make that a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
yes.
Steve.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Karen? Wow, all right. Just wait, we'll screw something up here. Yeah. All right, Helen. Yeah,
Morning.
good morning.
So I think that Beth gave you the conflict policy, right?
Yes.
Okay. As a part of accepting the funds that you just made a motion about, the ARPA funds, we identified that there are some requirements potentially for this and other federal grants or programs that we need to have some specific wording in a conflict of interest policy. So what you see in front of you is our conflict of interest policy coming out of the employee policy manual, which applies to all of our employees and of course could be applied to other types of interested parties as well. And then the big paragraph at the bottom and the small paragraph are in essence the pieces that were added to bring us into compliance with those federal guidelines. I, of course, worked with Karen to get this completed, and so we wordsmithed our way through it, made it hopefully readable and useful for employees, but covered all our bases. So we do need you to approve this, and then our policy manual will be updated to improve this, to include this new language.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion on the useful and readable updated conflict of interest policy?
I would assume this is not drafted after the federal government's conflict of interest policy.
Karen did all of the research, and so she gave me some draft wording, and then we went through and refined it.
Yeah, it is. It pretty much mirrors what this federal law in the Code of Federal Regulations requires. So we just followed that really. So, which is required by that ARPA thing. So specifically.
I would make a motion to approve the conflict of interest update June 2021.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
David.
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, to the position report, which I did email out midweek last week, but then an update yesterday. Do they have the updated one?
No, you said you're bringing it.
Okay, I did, yep.
Please, thank you.
Yep. All right, we're seeking permission to fill one position at the Youth Assessment Center.
Motion to authorize the youth care attendant position.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
motion passes.
I'll point out in the far right column of this front page, we had a resignation in the DMV, but they are going to try and operate without filling that position. They think they can handle the work and cover the absences. And so if that changes, I'll come back and ask for permission, but you'll see that now residing on the right side column. And then we're going to the back. We have 3 board member positions to fill. The Joint Library Board of Trustees has 2 county positions that were advertised. We received 2 applications, or rather, we had one interested party, Leah Heine, who's currently serving on the board, expressed interest in continuing. Kelly Hell is not seeking reappointment, but Leah Windangle is. And so we're looking for permission we're looking for your approval to fill both of those. And then, as Sam started to say, the Planning and Zoning Commission did create a subcommittee where they are reviewing applications for the folks that have submitted interest in that board. That committee met. Those recommendations then go to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review. So we've been a little delayed here because the Planning and Zoning Commission canceled a meeting in, must have been the month of April. And so there was a little delay, but coming through that committee and the Planning and Zoning Commission then is a request to appoint Shane Simblick.
Okay, can we do all these in one motion?
I think you can.
I'd make a motion to appoint Leah Henley, Leah Windagle, and Shane Simblick to their prospective boards.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I was just hanging in there in suspense, waiting for that second one. Okay. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Steve,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. I think that's all we have. Adjourned.